certainly a tremendous honor, and I'm humbled by being inducted into the South Carolina Dairy Hall of Fame. One of the best compliments I got from a friend that said when he heard I was being inducted was that you're not old enough for that, and I took that as a very much a compliment. Certainly I have had great respect for the Hall of Fame since I was a kid in 4-H. I think the first time I saw it was with dairy judging, and 4-H congresses would be on campus, and we would walk the halls of the P&A, where that was the Dairy Science Department at the time. Dr. King's office was up that way, and my grandfather, C.B. Parr, happened to be in the original 4 that were put in the hall when they started it. And so when your grandfather's on the wall, you kind of notice it a little bit. So and then following my undergraduate years at Clemson, walking down that hall and spending a lot of time, it's indeed a humbling experience to be included in the group of people. And when I walk down the halls today up there, I see all those names and know of or have personally known most of those people with all their tremendous accomplishments. So it really is a humbling experience to be included in that group. It's interesting here sitting at the house where on the location where I grew up. Certainly my father had a dairy farm, and I have 3 siblings, and we're all actively involved. I, from early on, was drawn to the cow side of the farm. My younger brother more the farm side, but I'm thinking back, my involvement goes back to my very first cow I got when I was 6 years old, a cow named Headspring Aim Panda. And I showed her as a junior calf at the Newberry Saluda Fair, and I remember on this spot, it was a different house here at the time, but there was a little barn out back. We had to go out every morning before school and lead her around and show that. And Panda lived, her last freshening date was she was 13 years old, completed a lactation then, and I was a freshman in vet school. So Panda and I had followed my whole journey through being prepared to be in the dairy profession. I don't know that I ever showed a cow in showmanship that wasn't her. So from that, you know, I was often accused, and I think this is probably still true. I still can remember a cow's name better than I can a person's name and their whole pedigree. Great respect for the former executive secretary of the American Jersey Association, Jim Cavanaugh, and he used to pick at me about that and tell stories about walking around in the pasture when he visited down here with me barefoot and walking in the cow manure and the briars, but being able to tell all the cows. But for whatever reason, I was always drawn to that side, and I had the opportunity. My daddy was very progressive, and the dairy business was one of the larger dairy farms in the state at the time, and certainly gave me every opportunity to learn every aspect of the farm. I used to pick at that for whatever reason. The herdsmen seemed to leave about the time I got out of school in the high school and college during the summertime, and all of my plans would be gone for the summer, and I would be the herdsman until they hired a new one before the fall. But that experience really proved valuable for me, and I look back and think of the other things, the youth activities in Jersey, showing cows and what you learn from that. 4-H, we were very involved in the 4-H dairy program. In the 4-H other clubs that we did, my wife and I often talk about how you learn certain things, and I think the value of learning Robert's rules and how to conduct a meeting and leadership skills and learning to debate. Now, you know, my family was one that, my father was always extremely confident that he was right, so he never was threatened by an argument from his kids, and in fact he encouraged a debate, and that has served the whole family well, I think, growing up, that you learn to have your position and be prepared to defend it and advocate for it. I think in 4-H, dairy judging, I think, really helped me, and I think a lot of other people be able to, when you give reasons, you're saying this is how I think it should be, and here is why, and do it formally. And remember giving those reasons in contest in the P&A building at Clemson, where the Hall of Fame is located. So all of those things, and the people in the dairy industry in South Carolina who are my friends and colleagues have certainly given me a lot of opportunities, and I'm just happy to have been a part of all of that, and that they have honored me, you know, with this award. It really should be shared by all of them, because what I do is just being a part of the whole group of dairy people. You know, from that, I just wanted to be a dairy farmer. You know, that's what I loved, what I wanted to do. I wasn't going anywhere but Clemson. I applied to one school. Just about missed my orientation. I had some high school friends that we were going to ride together, and I had totally forgotten it was orientation day. We were down at a back pasture over the hill down there vaccinating calves, and they came over the hill and said, "We're here to pick you up." I was giving shots and working calves, so we changed rapidly and went up to graduation. But I give credit for going into veterinary medicine to my mother. She said, "Well, you know, I know you want a dairy, and that's what I want you to do as well, but you know dairying pretty well. Why don't you become a veterinarian? Because we need a good veterinarian, and you'll have other opportunities." And frankly, that's the first time I thought about being a veterinarian. Had some good mentors there. From Clemson, you know, did go to Clemson, majored in pre-veterinary sciences, changed over to dairy science, and had a great career there. My story we like to tell, people who know Clemson, when I went through in the early 70s, I went to Clemson in the fall of '72. But so I went to the University of Georgia for 4 years at veterinary school, and returned back here to Newberry, met my wife, Cheryl. Yeah, my wife, Cheryl, has often been picked at by others that they didn't think I would ever get married because I knew cows' names better than people's names. And Cheryl often jokes and reminds me as early as this morning that it was clear to her early on that her main competition was the cows. And I'm sad to admit that she was okay with them coming first sometimes. While I was a senior in vet school, she was finishing her master's in home economics at Georgia on a blind date, and we dated for 6 weeks and became engaged, but got married shortly after my graduation. So we returned back here to start solo practice and work at the farm. I was able to take over probably half my time initially, which gave me money to eat, working on a contract basis with Daddy on the dairy, and then start doing food animal dairy work. So it's a real blessing. I often joke, Cheryl's older brother was in the class ahead of me, was a veterinarian. Her father was a veterinarian, and her father had gone to vet school with 4 kids. So she was in Athens, and she had been through vet school as a young child. Her mother taught, and her daddy worked the weekends to support them, and they ate the eggs off the farm and survived. So I often joke when I returned to go into practice, it was such a blessing to have Cheryl to handle the phone. And she knew how to run a practice. I didn't. I was in the dairy business. I hadn't run a veterinary practice, but she did. And you know, the whole career of doing that, you know, the dairy people are still some of my best friends, and I enjoy, and the practice grew. And later I started just moved off the farm and bought a house in town, continued doing the dairy work for Daddy. But you know, there are some points it was more important for him and I to get along than it was to be in business together. And I never regret that decision, because that is, you know, the priorities to do. And I made a conscious decision at that time. We have now 4 wonderful children. That when the oldest was just fixing to turn 6, was still 5, the 4th one was born. So they were, we have 3 sons and 1 daughter. My son Brian is the oldest. He's an attorney in D.C. now, and my son Jonathan is a MD with the School of Public Health, School of Medicine at Chapel Hill. My daughter Ruth is an architect in Boston, and my son Tim is a packaging science graduate of Clemson. The one of the 4 I have is a Clemson alum. But the people you work with in dairying has been what's valuable to me. My clients were friends. I had regular farms that I worked with monthly or twice a month and in between. And when I left practice 2004 to join Clemson Livestock and Poultry Health, that was the biggest challenge, you know, to leave those relationships. But the dairy people are so supportive and good friends that they have continued to contribute to whatever successes I have had as state veterinarian in South Carolina, because I'm working with the same people. And they're good people, and I trust them and they trust me. All these experiences through 4-H and the support of my family and the dairymen that I have worked with as partners in this industry, moving to LPH and being put in this role, I really hadn't ever sought for the purpose of being in office, the leadership roles, but I think their preparation of me, apparently I have found them thrust upon me. And hopefully on the national level, I'm privileged currently to be serving as president of the United States Animal Health Association. Was able to go as part of the U.S. delegation to OIE in Paris last year. And I take with me the experiences and the perspectives and the needs of dairymen in South Carolina and around when I go that. And I view that maybe as a little way of being able to give back so that their concerns are there at the national level. Very humbled to accept this award, selected by your peers, and thank Farm Bureau, South Carolina Farm Bureau, for their role in doing this and keeping the Hall of Fame going, and its Dairy Committee and Clemson University and their role in hosting that and all the opportunities they've given me. I appreciate it.